Okay, good evening, everybody. Let's start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the mission of the Chatham Central School District is to provide students an education that nurtures intellectual curiosity and focuses on academic and cultural foundations. Our students will graduate with the knowledge, problem-solving abilities, and character needed to participate ethically, adapt, succeed, and contribute in their future educational, career, and community endeavors. May I have a motion to approve the present agenda? Anyone have any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. We are here at the public comment section. Is anybody interested in making a public comment today?
Can everyone hear me okay? Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Connolly. I'm a middle school teacher, but here tonight I speak to you as the president of the Chatham Teachers Association. Before I begin, I want to wish the robotics teams best of luck in their presentation tonight. You're about to see the best of the best that Chatham has to offer. Wonderful group of kids, so good luck tonight, everyone. Last June, I spoke to you of the importance of the school year we are currently in, that it was going to be a year seen as a turning point for the future of this school district. As we prepare for a new collective bargaining agreement with the district, there are a few statistics I would like to remind you of. Under the current contract, CCSD has lost 42% of its teachers and teaching assistants, 64 total educators for an average of 16 educators per year. During a recent poll of our colleagues, 71% of the current teaching staff and support staff have indicated that they have looked for another job in the past year. In the same poll, 70% said it was an economic necessity that they work a second job. We are currently on average over the span of a salary scale, 8% behind the pay of the other districts in Columbia County. The longer a teacher stays in Chatham, the further behind in salary they find themselves. A 25-year veteran of Chatham is on average over 20% behind neighboring districts. Working here, and I really hate to say this, but working here is now financially irresponsible. It is no coincidence that the last large groups of faculty hires to remain employed here as, quote, lifers are those that were hired 15 years ago or longer. That is when our district paid competitively, attracted the best teachers, retained them, and rewarded them for their dedication. Since then, the district has invested millions of dollars into various endeavors, projects, and reserves, but it has not invested in its teachers. Those lifers have stayed here out of loyalty towards and love of the Chatham Central School District. But loyalty and love do not pay the bills. I speak with former colleagues, those who have resigned in recent years, very often. They all share a common mindset. They miss Chatham dearly and wish they could have stayed, but those feelings go away on payday at their new district. We understand the implications of the current financial situation of the state, of our community, and of the school district. We get it. But we also acknowledge that appropriate budgeting will take hard work and courage on the part of this Board of Education. We also, I really hate to put us in this situation where we as a unit who are so looking forward to working together with new district leadership that we are very excited for. Mr. Court and Mr. Bordell have been a breath of fresh air. We are primed to do great things in this district. But your best investment will give you the best return possible. It's us. A literal return to the days when we were able to hire the best and the brightest, retain them, and make our district the envy of this region. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Conover. Would anyone else like to speak tonight?
Your live stream isn't working.
My lives, oh, okay, thank you. Okay, I don't know, okay. Okay, so there's no other public comment? All right, we'll move on then. Okay, so we'll move on to board comment. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say? No? Okay.
Is our student record tonight? She is getting ready for this week's.
Mhm.
This weekend is Greece, the music department. Putting on Greece this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
on Friday, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon.
Thank you, Miriam. Okay, so we are moving to buildings and departments reports, public library presentation.
Okay.
If it's not, not yours. There we go.
I don't think just the arrow, right?
Too far away. You just have to say next.
Okay.
It's line of sight.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm trying to follow this.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Bachrach. I'm the director of the Chatham Public Library. I stepped into the director position in the library back in October when Amanda Merck resigned, and then stepped into the position in a permanent capacity in early January of this year. I'm glad to be here this evening to share some highlights from our past year at the public library and from our recent annual report. So thank you for having me. I wanted to begin by just sharing our mission with you all. The mission of the Chatham Public Library is to nurture a sense of community, past and present, and advance the benefits of lifelong learning. The library staff and I are guided by this mission every day as we provide materials, services, and programs to the community. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I just want to start with some numbers here. You can see from this slide that the number of library card holders, the number of visits to the library, and the number of reference questions answered are all up from the previous year. And particularly library programs and people attending them increased pretty significantly from 2023 to 2024. Next slide, please. So we looked briefly at people and programs, and I just want to move on to our collection and circulation numbers. So in 2024, there were 60,000 checkouts of physical materials and 25,000 digital items accessed. So that includes ebooks, serials, audiobooks, and videos. And when considering all of the materials and services that people accessed, used, attended in 2024, the public library is estimated to have provided well over $1.5 million in value to our community. That's according to the New York Library Use Value Calculator, which is a tool developed by the New York Library Association. So it's a rough figure, but it is about right. Next slide, please. So we're busy at the public library year round. We plan and host so many community programs and events, and we work hard to have something for everyone. This timeline shows just a little sample of what we were up to over the past year, but I think it's one useful way to reflect on what our year looked like. And just to pull out a few highlights here. In February, we were able to host a hugely successful animal show by the 2x2 Animal Haven, thanks to the support of the Friends of the Library. And that was one of our biggest events ever. We had several hundred people attend that, and it sounds like it was a lot of fun. In April, we hosted an eclipse party on our front lawn with free eclipse glasses and pizza for everyone. In June, we kicked off our summer reading program with a party and with fire trucks, thanks to the Chatham Fire Department. And in November, we put out the call for our new community collection series, which you'll be hearing lots more about in 2025. Next slide. So here you can just see a few highlights from our adult and family programs in 2024. We hosted our annual seedling swap. The Library Walking Club met up regularly to walk on local trails. The Friends of the Library put on their annual Adopt a Book fundraiser. And they also continued hosting local musicians as part of their Music in the Library series. You can see there the Amy Ryan Band. That was a particular success, drew a big crowd, and there was even some dancing in the library stacks. Next slide, please. And then our children's programs, of course. We have a really robust, regular weekly schedule of children's programs, thanks to the amazing Miss Becky, who many of you probably know and love. Her preschool story hour on Friday mornings is probably our most long-standing regular program, but we also have a Shake and Shout program for younger children and a weekly play group for children birth to 5 and their caregivers, a Lego club after school, and lots of other regular programs. And then here you can see some flyers for special programs that are not on our weekly rotation. But we had the Story Crafters, who are local storytellers, come to do a springtime program. The Via Aquarium came to do a reptile program. We've had lots of good things over the past year. Next slide, please. I also think it's valuable and fun to look back at the past year in terms of what lots of people were reading and watching. So here you can see our most popular checkouts in a few different categories. There's fiction, nonfiction, movie, YA, and so on. Those are all our most popular physical items over the past year. But we've also continued to expand our digital collections, which of course allow patrons to access library resources from home. You might be familiar with Libby, Hoopla, and Canopy. All of those were heavily used by our patrons in 2024. You can see those numbers here. And I just want to quickly mention Blackstone Unlimited, which is a new resource that we have for e-audiobooks, and we now have access to that through the Columbia County Libraries Association, of which we are a part. Next slide, please. We work in partnership with so many different community organizations. This slide highlights just some of them. Some of these partnerships are extremely long-standing, and some represent new relationships that we formed just over the last year. And the more connected we are with a wide variety of community organizations, the better and stronger we are as a public library. Next slide, please. Another way we work with the community is by offering a space for groups and people to meet. So here you can see just a few of the groups that meet in the library. There's quite a bit of variety. We have school tutors and speech therapists, knitting groups, Girl Scout troops, nursing mothers groups, a ham radio club. So there's quite a variety. Next slide, please. As we look ahead into 2025, we're already very busy. So in these first months of the year, we launched our community collection series, which invites community members to share their own collections in our display case. If you haven't been by to check it out, we currently have an amazing vintage lace collection on display. This series has been ongoing since January, and it changes every 2 weeks. So we've had a button collection, we've had a collection of tin toys, and quite a few others, and we're currently scheduled out through May with different collections coming in every 2 weeks or so. We started a new adult social hour on Tuesday mornings, which is, we have more people coming to that every week. So that's been a very nice thing. And I should say a big thank you to Bartlett House for providing pastries for us for that every week. This year's countywide community read is Braiding Sweetgrass. And we've gotten started on that together with all of the other Columbia County libraries. We have related events and discussion groups happening all around the county between now and June. And one of those, just last week, we collaborated with a local family-run maple sugaring operation for a tour and tasting. So lots of community events. Next slide, please. So the Chatham Public Library has continued to serve as a thriving center for our community, even during a year of transition in leadership. This was possible thanks to the commitment and enthusiasm of our staff. They are really wonderful. Our advisory board, thank you, John and others, and the Friends of the Library, as well as just the Chatham community. I want to wrap up just by looking forward, so I'll leave you with a few of our priorities for this year. In 2025, we will get out into the community for off-site programs and library outreach and find new ways to bring the community into the library. We'll continue to build and strengthen partnerships with local organizations, build and maintain a library collection that reflects our unique community and is responsive to its needs, and listen to ideas from our patrons always. So please come talk to us about what you'd like to see, programs you'd like to attend, what you want to read, watch, etc. We always want to hear from you. Next slide, please. Thank you. So that is everything I have for you. I'm happy to take any questions.
I just have one question. Are we still part of the Mid-Hudson Library, or did that split up? I see that we're the Columbia County Library Association, but is the Mid-Hudson Association still part of it?
That is a good question. Yes, we're very much still part of the Mid-Hudson Library System. I think it's 66 libraries, if I have that right. And that is very valuable because when you come to check something out from our library, you're not just able to check out books and other materials that we have here in Chatham, but at any of those 66 member libraries, and they will send them to us. So you can pick them up in Chatham, but it can be anything owned by any one of those Mid-Hudson libraries. The Columbia County Libraries Association is another smaller group, and we tend to work together more on like community events and programming as a smaller group.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to, as a new superintendent, I sure have learned a lot about public libraries in this role. But I have to say, one thing that I'm incredibly impressed with is the partnership that it takes. I want to thank John McGowan, who is our president of CPLAC, for being here, and that is a really great group that really supports and helps manage the library in conjunction with the district, and also the Friends of Library. What a great organization! And just incredibly impressed with Hannah. She's been here a couple months, and she has truly is making a huge difference in our public library. So it truly takes a community, to run a public library, and we have some great members to really help it be successful. So Hannah, thank you for your leadership. We truly appreciate it. And
Thank you
those
very
of you in the
much.
audience that live in Chatham, or even if you don't live in Chatham, check the library out. It's a pretty fantastic place.
For sure, come see us, please.
Thank you very much, Hannah.
Great,
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay, so our student representative is not here because she's fine-tuning the play coming up this weekend. So she got the kitchen pass this time. So we'll move straight on to Andrew's superintendent reports.
Good evening, everyone. So a couple updates for today. The first thing I want to give everyone an update about some things coming up with the budget vote and also some board candidates.
Did we want to, sorry, Andrew, did we want to do the robotics presentation first, or
Oh.
do you want to do the, because
that under
it is listed under superintendent
So I
reports. It's the
definitely wanted
first
to,
one.
let's definitely do the robotic first. That's way more exciting than my report.
Absolutely.
All right, so robotics team. Yeah, thank you. I was just ready to go.
All righty. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandy Fisher. I'm the head coach for the First Robotics team, which is the high school team, and also the assistant coach for the First Tech Talent Challenge team. Kate Rossi is the head coach, and she's home with her new baby. Before I get started, I would very much like to thank the Chatham Central School District for your support of the robotics program. We would not be here without your generous support. And you can see some of our other sponsors here who have also contributed through grants and sponsorships to this program. It's a huge endeavor. It's quite expensive, but as you'll see in the presentation tonight, it's really worth it. I'd also like to call out Mr. Fisher and Mr. Andrews, who are the lead mentors for the First Robotics team, without whom there'd be no program. They're invaluable to this program. Their wealth of knowledge and experience, and the fact that they donate tons of hours of time to the district and to the students is very admirable, and thank you so much. So I'd like to, before I start, just put something into context here. The first robotics competition began in 1989 by inventor Dean Kamen. He's the man who made the Segway, among other things. And the first year of that competition, there were 28 robots. Last year, there were 785,000 students in the first programs, participating in over 4,500 different events from 111 different countries. Volunteer, mentor, and educator roles totaled to over 430,000, and 33 million hours of volunteer time that the adult mentors and volunteers and educators give to this program. There's several levels of the First Robotics program. The FRC, the First Robotics Competition, that's what we started first in 2016. That's the high school for grades 9 through 12. Last year, we started the First Tech Challenge. That's grades 7 through 12. Keep that in mind, that's important. And then there are several First Lego Leagues, one of which Mrs. Galvin started at the Morris for grades 4 through 8. I think you did 5 and 6. Yep, 4 through 8. So worldwide, there are over 744 First Lego League teams with 48,000 students in 110 counties, or 110 countries, excuse me. Over 7,000 teams for 99,000 students in 81 countries on the First Tech Challenge, and over 3,400 teams with over 87,000 in 28 countries on the First Robotics competition, the high school level. Guess how many there are in Columbia County? One, us, Chatham. So that's a remarkable thing that makes us stand out even more. Why is this program so important, and why do we give so much of our time and energy to this program? Obviously, the skills they learn are programming, mechanical design and building, and other woodworking building, wiring, but then they hit every single one of the capstone skills, including problem solving, communication, organization, accountability, reflection, confidence, professionalism, in addition to other things such as management, business and finance, being an artist. I see Emma Crosby designed this logo back in 2018, and we've come back to it as our new logo. Team building, and then the first skills of cooperation and gracious professionalism. When we're at competitions, it's not only the robot, you'll see both the robots in action tonight, but building alliances and relationships with other teams. That's really important. We'll be giving out some pins and stickers that we have available at our competitions. We have branding with our logos. The FTC logo was designed by Jack Galvin, and if you look closely, you'll see that it's the main street of Chatham with the circle and the main street, and we're called the Chatham Circuits. So he took our hometown and made that into the logo, which is really cool. And then they have to do a lot of networking and scouting. This year, the first challenge for all the robotic teams was dive. So it was a water themed challenge to have students thinking not only about robot design, but also the environment and sustainability. The first tech challenge that you'll see tonight is Into the Deep, and the FRC is Reefscape, and that's a coral reef there. Some things to remember as the kids are talking. If you hear the term autonomous, that means that the robot is driving solely on computer code that the kids wrote. Teleop is the period of time when the robot is being driven by the driver and the operator. When I say FTC, that's First Tech Challenge, that's the middle school team, and FRC, that's the high school team. The FTC can have up to 15 kids on a team. We have 6. We have 3 7th graders and we have 3 8th graders. They play on a 12 by 12 foot field. We have a smaller scale here, obviously. And we compete mostly against high schoolers. And I said this at a previous board meeting when we were in Broad Alban. One of my former student teachers was there with his team, and his team was all AP physics students, so seniors. So our kids were competing against AP physics kids, and our kids did great. We compete at 2 events, Broad Alban and Albany Academy, and those events are long days. We leave here 6:30, 7 in the morning, and we don't come back till 7 o'clock at night. The kids have to submit an engineering notebook. So I'm gonna have, Ren, can you just hand Miss Collette the engineering notebook? You can take a look at what the kids have to prepare as part of their competition. When we get to competition, not only are they showing off the robot, but they also have to make a presentation in front of a panel of judges in order to try to win some awards. And some of the things that they have to discuss are the design process, the team dynamics, and their sustainability. At competition, there's 2 robots per alliance, and they compete against another alliance. The top 8 then become alliance captains and go into the playoff phase. On the high school team, the team number is unlimited, and that's important too. We have 14 on the team this year, which is double than what we had last year, but we compete against schools that have up to 100 kids on a team with dozens of mentors and massive budgets. The field for FRC is 26 feet by 57 feet. Half of it is taped off in the library at the moment. Thank you to the library for letting us take over. The team is interviewed by multiple panels of judges on their design strategies, their creative components, team dynamics, challenges and successes, and sustainability. At the FRC competition, there's 3 alliances per team, and the winning captain team gets to go to Worlds in Houston in April. Both teams have to network, and they have to work towards being recognized and respected in the robot community. Part of that is through branding, so the logos and handing out buttons and pins and things. And some of it is through scouting and watching what other teams have on their robots to learn about the robots so that we can make good decisions. So I'll have Nyla, do you and Nixon, do you want to hand out? Everyone can have a pin. And then we also, Mrs. Rose is our go-to person now. She made our shirts for us. And also made some stickers, which we can hand out. So let me introduce the First Tech Challenge team. We have Michael, who's a 7th grader, Preston, who's an 8th grader, Jack, who's an 8th grader, and he's our team captain, Ren, who's an 8th grader, and then Nyla and Nixon, who are both 7th graders. And Preston is going to come up and tell you what the challenge was for this year that they had to achieve. Oh, wait, you got to come up on the microphone. I know. I'll stand here and hold it for you. You got to use your teacher voice.
So we had these rectangle blocks, and we had to like pick them up and put them into different height baskets, and different heights were of different points. I don't remember the points. And then you could also like hang on the metal bars and touch them for points, and that's basically it.
That's basically it. All right. And then Jack's going to tell us about the design and building process. Do you want to hold it or set it down? You'll hold it. Excellent.
So we decided on a robot that was quick and efficient that would be better than a slow robot that got the high points on the specimens, which were worth more than the baskets. But if we were able to go faster, we could get more on the basket. So we made a scoop that doesn't need a lot of precision. So we could just go scoop up the block real quick. Then we bring it back to our other bucket, which is on a linear slide, which we bought this year. It is Go Builda. It was a little tough to get it to the chassis because they're different brands, but we managed to 3D print some pieces that made them work together. That piece then goes up and we dump it in the high basket, which is worth 8. And we can get about 7 to 8 of those per match versus only getting 4 or 5 in the specimens on the high chamber, which would equal 50 points for the specimens. But in the basket, we can get roughly 60 points if it's a good run.
And then Mike, did you want to come and talk about the autonomous versus teleop and the coding?
So as Ms. Fisher said, autonomous is through computer code, which computer code is basically just a script of writing that tells the robot what to do through its brain thing. I don't know what it's called. So what our robot does is it drives up, uses the piece, and it uses the linear slide to go up all the way, and then it drops the piece into the basket, and then it flips the basket back over, drops the linear slide down, and rolls back over. Then we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds where it's all also computer coded, but you have controllers to drive it. Almost everything in this is computer coded. Without it, the robot wouldn't know what to do. So you can drive it. We use our bucket to scoop up pieces. We drop them in the back bucket, use the linear slide to go back up. As Jack said, we're a very fast robot and we're very efficient. We did lose, I remember through the competition, at least the one I went to, although our robot did drop a piece, it also got in the low basket, which is also one of the things we were hoping that with our design, that if we dropped it, it would at least make it into the low basket because of how our robot is proportionally. So I think we landed everything with our robot. Although I didn't do a lot of the computer coding, I was the only coder this year, along with Mr. Fisher over there. Sorry, I'm tired. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we'll do a demonstration. I think we're going to demo the autonomous part first, which is just all computer code. So for this, they had to make sure that the distances and everything were correct. It looks like we're a little off. It looks like it moved. Oh, no, there we go. All right, and now they'll demonstrate some of our teleop. So this was all the kids' designs. We spent the beginning part of the season looking at what some of the other teams did and evaluating sort of what we wanted to achieve. There's a couple of different designs that the kids came up with, and then they had to vote on which one they thought would be the most efficient. And this is what they came up with. And there were several iterations of this throughout the season as they would build and test and see where it wasn't quite doing what they wanted, then they would have to go and revise it. So that's our FTC robot. Any questions for this team?
I'm just here to answer any questions that you may have about our robot or our season and how it went.
In years past, there was a lot of discussion about the wheels that you had, the wheels that could turn as opposed to just going straight. Is that robot those updated wheels that
Yes, I did forget to mention that we have special Mecanum wheels, and because of how they have little rollers, you can rotate the wheels in an X pattern, so you can go side to side real easily, and instead of having to do a full turn, it makes it much quicker and easier to move about the field.
great.
Or is it everything off? For the first tech challenge, those Mecanum wheels are the upper level. That's what the teams would have. So let's see if we can get this back on. Any other questions while we're trying to reboot? Are we going to be able to reboot? Okay.
So why did you have to put that down into almost the bucket? Is there an eye or something that has to see when you rebooted that?
No, just radio transmission that the robots
Okay,
gets on and it connects to the
great, thanks.
you go side to side, like this,
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I would love to ask a question about the code, but I wouldn't even know what to ask.
Could you explain how you coded it and what programs you used?
I could if I had the memory of an elephant. So I can't really remember anything. I can only remember up to fourth period today.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Good
This
answer.
is like a drag and drop block coding is what they use.
Okay,
Um,
excellent.
yeah.
Java too. So I have a question. You know, I know when you're working on projects like this, working together as a team could be some of the hardest, biggest challenges. Can you talk to me about how you guys work together as a team and how you divided the different tasks?
You probably need to come up on the microphone, so.
So probably one of the most obvious and biggest teamwork things is so what we did is that we split up the code because we have two controllers. So the driving and the front arm is controlled by one controller, and then the linear slide and the bucket is controlled by another. So that is one of our most obvious forms of teamwork, is that we need to not necessarily communicate, but we need to look out for each other so that we can see when we can do things. As Jack and Ren demonstrated, you have to put down pieces, bring them up so that everything works the way it will. Otherwise, things will fail. So that is one of the biggest things with teamwork. If you want to talk about something, you can.
So in terms of delegating the work when we're building the robot, when we got the go build a slide, we also have a second one, which we did not need to use. And so we could have some people working on the code, some people working on the chassis of the robot and building the things that the linear slide would connect to. And then we had other people building the linear slides, and it just worked together. So we all finished about roughly the same time, and everything was set to go when we needed it ready.
Thank you guys. Very
Thank
impressive.
you very much.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
All righty, and now I'll bring in the FRC, the high school team. We need music. Yeah, thumbs up. All righty, so you can see this is a little bit larger robot. The FTC robot is bounded by size. It can only be 18 by 18 by 18. For the FRC robot, there is a 120-inch perimeter maximum. This year, there's a 42-inch, I'm looking at my mentors here, 42-inch height maximum. I think we're at like 40 and a half, maybe 41 with all our wires there. And it can weigh up to 115 pounds, and I think we're at about 100 pounds right now. All right, do you want to talk about, so I guess I can talk about the challenge. Mason's on the job. Okay, perfect. All right. So the challenge for the FRC, it's called Reefscape, and they have to collect coral, which are PVC pipes, and deliver it to the reef. The reef has big green balls on them, which is algae that they have to remove first. And then they have to be able to climb on the cage. That cage is 20 pounds. And there's 2 levels. The lower level, which we are currently on, is the harder challenge. It can also be raised 3 feet in the air, something like that. I don't know. Higher, we're not doing that. We're going for the hard part. And then it has to be able to hang and stay off the ground for a second or so when the period ends. All right, you want to talk about design?
Hello there. My name is Mason Levy. I'm captain of the team this year. I'm just going to go over some of the parts of our bot with you guys. So we have 4 main mechanisms. We have this, which is called the elevator. So this central section here can raise up and down to around 6-ish feet. We also have the arm mechanism, which is this right here. So we can pivot backwards and forwards. On the end of the arm, we have what we're calling the beak. On here, we have a PVC tube, as well as a green wheel that's motorized by a belt, so that we can suck on the coral pieces, which, if we have one lying around, could I have this? Thank you. This is what they're calling coral pieces as part of the underwater theme. They're just pieces of PVC tube that we can suck on using the green wheel. And our last mechanism is what we're using for the climber. Ms. Fisher mentioned it briefly, but we have hooks in the bottom of the bot here that can rotate all the way around and through in order to lift the bot into the air. Some other cool things about our bot. We recently bought what's called a Limelight 4. It's a smart camera that can detect what's called April tags that's on the front of many of the field pieces. So we can use that to autonomously line up with parts of the game pieces. So we have 2 of those on our bot, and we'll be demonstrating how those work shortly. The wheels on them? Yep, so we have a special kind of drivetrain called Swerve Drive. And this year we recently got new wheels. They're called Coulson wheels. They're just thick rubber billet wheels. Swerve Drive allows us to move in any orientation in any direction, unlike, for example, Tank Drive, which would be like a normal RC car, where it has to drive straight and then turn in order to move that direction. We can move any direction while we're turning any angle. It'll make a little more sense once you see it in action. Anything else? Okay. Are we doing the demonstration?
Yes, please.
All right.
I'm going to get out of the way. Last year when we presented, the robot had disconnect errors. And so they talked about what the robot would do, and then we had to go back to the library for hours and fix it. Hopefully this time everything's working. Shove her shoulders. So while they were practicing in the library at 5 o'clock, the white PVC, the beak broke off. So it's currently hot glued or super glued on. And so the angle is slightly different than what it had been. And they have preset codes. So when they push a button, it goes to the right height of each of the levels here. So they're a little bit off now.
Our radio is also having disconnecting issues. It causes us to randomly turn off sometimes. Try that one. Yeah, we'll do it fine.
And that's our end game. That'll get us 12 points. Any questions for the high school team?
So when you were lining it up to get the PVC pipe on there, was it looking at the, what did you call that?
April
Yes.
tag, it's just a QR code pretty much. But yes, it was doing that. I have 2 buttons on my controller, left and right bumper. And depending on which one I select, the bot will line up with the to left or right horizontal offset in order to place it onto the correct spot. We have to tune those values sometimes because some of the reef pieces are built a little differently. I believe that's why it failed today, but you could obviously see our top level works very well. And we think we could definitely tune it in time for competition.
So can you use your own setup, or do you have to be able to have the robot work with somebody else's props?
So we recreated the pieces based on instructions that FRC gives us, but on the real field, the pieces are much more precise and better, and so we've set up our code so we can quickly tune it to what we need to in order to score. Yep. You mean in terms of robots? There's 3 robots on each team. So yeah, and for the real field, so where this is called the reef, it's one piece of a hexagonal shape that has more of these on it, and that sits in the middle of one half of the field. At the halfway point of the field is where the cages hang, and they kind of separate the field in 2. And so that's generally what the field looks like. This is like the center of each side. And then in the corners, you have these, which are called the coral stations, which is where we pick up our coral. We've been working on it for the last, 3 months, right? 3 months. Yep. January 8th was the first day. Yep. We've been doing a lot of hours, spending weekends from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock here just to get it built.
The climb was pretty impressive. Can you explain to us a little bit about how that worked and what you had to do to design that?
Yeah, sure. I can try to roll the bot to a better spot. I can try that.
Maybe roll it into the middle a little bit and then tip it.
All right. So for the climber here, we started with a wooden prototype in the shop, and we had a wooden frame to set this up. So we started with designing 2 hooks that go on 2 separate axles here, each powered by their own motor. And we were trying to figure out how to get it to hold reliably at the end. And so part of our design on these is they have a notch here. It's a little hard to see probably from there, but that helps hold it on the edge of the cage so that we can't slide off it. That was one of the problems we had in early testing. And each of these have a gearbox that's 100 to 1, so they're very high, and that's how it's that's how it's able to lift the bot with such ease. That's most of it. Do you have any other specific questions about it?
What was used to do that? I see that now.
We've seen very few teams with
Good.
that particular design in competition so far, so we're excited to
So the hooks are made out of, it's just a strong plastic material. UHMW. Yeah. We do have many 3D printed pieces on our bot though. One of them is what broke earlier at around 5:30. I was playing with it too much. So we had that piece here. That's 3D printed. This is 3D printed. That's 3D printed. That's 3D printed. Tons of pieces everywhere that are on it. And those are nice because we can easily print out new ones to replace the parts if things go wrong. And it allows us to, really customize spacing and other things. So our backup plan for that is we'll become a defense spot. So in this year's challenge, one person from a team is allowed to go to the other side of the field and try to stop the other players from scoring. That would probably be our backup move. Yeah. Until we can replace it in the next round. Hopefully we'll have a backup printed that we can go to the pits between matches and we'll quickly swap it in, swap it out like a race car. No, not during the rounds, no. They don't allow any humans on the field during that. No, actually, in previous years, there's been more defense, but this year they're kind of doing a very side-isolated play style, so only one person's allowed to go to the other side to defend.
Just to let the board know, I'm sorry.
They were only like 2 hours, so they were having Saturdays and weekends and every day, but we just weren't there as much. But we probably could have gotten them in a shorter time period because it's a smaller robot. We have it's super awesome.
I wish we had yours. It'd be really good.
I'm just thinking how beneficial the new technology room will be, because I know a lot of what the design is, and that technology room is to support this robotics program. So we're excited to have that built this summer. So next year you'll be able to utilize that space.
We're looking forward to it. So one last thing, I know there's always a question is, how can I watch your competition if I can't actually get to the MVP arena on March 27th through 29th? And I made you a flyer this year that has the website and a QR code that'll take you right to the website so that you'll be able to watch us both at Finger Lakes and Tech Valley.
And any board members, I'm planning on going to MVP Arena on the 28th. If anybody wants to join me, I'd be happy to meet you. I'm going to head there around 10:30 on the 28th. If anybody wants to go, we can meet up. And that's right at MVP Arena. So that one, the Hudson Valley one or the Tech Valley one is local.
Any other questions for us? All right,
No,
thank you
just
for your time. We're
Good
back
luck
to the library.
and Thank you. All right. Yeah. Sophia, nice work. Yeah. Okay, Andrew, so now it is updates.
All right. How do I follow that?
I know.
Goodness.
Do you have any show and
props or
tell? Or?
All right. So just a couple of things today. Well, actually, let me do my first night. All right, so the first thing I want to do is just give some information to the community about our upcoming budget vote and also board candidate opportunities. So the district annual budget voting election will take place on Tuesday, May 20th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the Mary E. Dardis Elementary Gymnasium. Since school is in session that day, we'll follow all safety precautions. We'll have a hall monitor in place to keep voters from wandering the building, and the SRD will also be vigilant in the building on that day. Let's talk about candidate petitions. Petitions will be available on March 21st for candidates seeking a seat for the Board of Education. You can pick the petition up from the district clerk. Candidates will need to submit their petitions no later than 5 p.m. on Monday, April 25th. Let me say that again. Monday, April 21st, 2025. At submission, we should have a brief bio of why that you're interested, and you would need to schedule a photo. So the board clerk Debbie will talk to you more about that if you're interested. Drawing for the order of names to be placed on the ballot will be Tuesday, April 22nd in the office of the district clerk at 9 a.m., and candidates are welcome to observe. Board of Education candidate qualifications, just to review. A qualified voter, you must be a qualified voter of the district, citizen of the U.S. and at least 18 years of age or older. You must be able to read and write. You must be or have been a resident of the district for a continuous and uninterrupted period of at least 1 year. They cannot be employed by the board or the school district in which they serve or live in the same household with a family member who is also a member of the same school board. Vacancies. The district has 2 seats available, 2 3-year terms commencing July 1st, 25, expiring June 30th, 28. So it's a 3-year commitment. We have two expiring terms of Muriel Faxon, and also an expiring term of Fred Hutchinson, who is now held by Rachel Galvin. So both of those terms are expiring. The 2 candidates receiving the highest number of votes will fill the 3-year terms. Voter registration dates. The first one is April 30th, 2025 from 2:30 to 6 in the M&D lobby. And then the second one is May 14th from 4 to 8 in the MED lobby. Just a reminder, qualified voter eligibility, you must be 18 years of age or older, citizen of the U.S., resident of the district for 30 days to vote, and your names must appear either in our personal registration book or on the County Board of Elections lists in order to cast a vote. Does the board have any questions on any of that?
Is that information going to be posted on our website?
Yes. So Debbie, do you know when that will be posted? So we'll have this piece posted this week, and we'll update it as we go. Okay, very good. All right, so a couple things. I want to talk about UPK a little bit. So as a district, this year we have 2 UPK classrooms. And we would love to continue to have 2 UPK classrooms, but unfortunately the enrollment is down this year. So currently we have a total of 18 kids in every UPK classroom, and that is essential because we are funded by the student. So for example, we hold 2 grants. One is more non-competitive, one is competitive. It's never a guarantee that we get the competitive grant. We did get it this year. Last year we had more than enough students to fill both classes of 18, so we were able to fully get those programs funded. Unfortunately, this year we only have 30 students registered, and a couple of those students we're not sure if they would be able to attend. So in order to get the funding, you have to be in the class, and we get audited on that on I believe a quarterly basis. So we have to provide information for that. So because of that, we had to make the very difficult decision due to funding that we're only at this point holding 1 preschool classroom. If we held 2 preschool classrooms, the district could be in jeopardy of having to take out of our general budget anywhere between about $50,000 and $180,000, dependent upon the grant program. And as you know, as Mike is going to talk about, we currently have a deficit. So this is something that we are preparing for. So as of now, we have 1 UPK classroom. Today, there was a lottery. When we posted for the UPK grant or for the UPK registration, we let families know that we weren't sure how many classes we would be able to have, and it would depend upon how many students registered. And we told them and publicized the lottery process, which we had to use today. The lottery process was recorded. It was very successful. We picked our 18 names, and those families, if they were watching, could have seen it. All families will be notified by the end of this week through email and also letter with either a confirmation or more information about not being able to make it into the UPK. Now, the other thing about UPK that I want to explain, it's very, very specific, and it's state-based. Universal means we have to give every single student the opportunity, and we can't target. So it means just because a student maybe has a special needs or maybe they're ELL, we can't give them preference to be on the list, and that's a New York State law. So it has to be a universal program, and we can't target or choose any. So it has to be completely done in a lottery type system. Majority of the districts in our region don't have enough. Unfortunately, UPK is not fully funded. It's not aidable. And it's not a full fund. So a lot of districts are doing similar things with us with having a lottery. This is the first lottery Chatham has had to do in a while due to enrollment numbers. We are hoping, we have talked, if we can get 34 students sitting in a classroom, we would open a second class and we would talk to the board about possibly paying the rest out of that general budget. So if someone didn't get on the UPK list, we right now have a waiting list. We're hoping that we can get a couple more students to register. And then as we go, we can talk about making that decision and what that cost would be if we can get a couple more. Right now, it just would go too deep into the budget. So fingers are crossed that we'll get more students. We publicized many times. We've reached out to families to try to make sure we got a good indication. Talking to superintendents around our region, the numbers for kindergarten and preschool are way down throughout the region. Don't forget, this is that COVID era. So it's unpredictable. So the numbers going into kindergarten and UPK around the entire capital region and the entire country are way down. So unfortunately, that is a challenge. But I will keep the board updated. We're constantly watching registration. People can still register and still get on that waiting list, and we'll keep the community posted on that information. There are other opportunities out there. If kids don't get into it, we'll be sending some information for families that are looking for it if they are interested in other programs like Head Start through the county. So there are other opportunities out there for children if they don't get into our program. We'll keep the community posted on that. Today I attended something called a Student Resiliency Conference. It was amazing. You know, one thing that we talk about is really trying to help our students be resilient learners and resilient problem solvers. And we're finding that some kids are struggling with resiliency. So this was a really good SEL conference that was at Sage College in Troy. We had some great speakers. The keynote speaker was incredibly inspirational and gave some real tips to teachers and administrators on how to help our students. And Mr. Terry Bordell and I were talking about maybe trying to get that person to come to Chatham so the whole district could hear her message about resiliency. A lot of mental health aspect of things, really talking about MTSS when it comes to behavior management. That's a big piece of it that we're hoping to incorporate. Specifically with our new director of student support services, that he or she will be overseeing that program. Speaking of that, in my update, really impressed with our candidates. Wow, I was really, really impressed with the caliber of qualified candidates that applied for that job. We did do final interviews. We did make an offer, but we're still working on acceptance and making sure contract stuff is done. But we found a great candidate that I'm excited to be able to introduce at some point. Hopefully at the next meeting, you'll have that person. But let me just say, all the candidates were incredibly impressive, and it was a very, very difficult decision. We are very lucky to get such a great caliber of candidates apply for the job. It was very refreshing for me as a school superintendent. I want to talk about also, I had the pleasure of going, and I brought Terry along with me, lobbying for Chatham. I recently went last week to the New York State School Superintendents Conference with superintendents around the state, all gathered together. The PD was fantastic. I had the opportunity to meet with people from the New York State Department of Education to hear insights about things coming up in the future of New York State education, and I'll be sharing details about that as we go to the Board of Education and to the community. But one thing I want to really talk about is I had the extreme pleasure of lobbying for the district. So what we did on Tuesday is we scheduled visits with 5 different either senators or assembly people that some of them represent our district, some represent our region, and we really talked about lobbying for state aid. One big thing that I talked about is how we are losing money this year due to property wealth in our community. but that's not a good, it's not a good indication or resemblance of what our students and families need in our school district. And I was really lobbying hard for, we need to really take a look at that formula. One thing I mentioned is we're noticing our students are needing more support than ever before. Our ELL numbers are up, our special education numbers are up, our mental health supports are needed, our free and reduced lunch rate is higher than it's ever been before, but yet they're telling us that our community is more wealthy than before, and our taxpayers should be able to take the brunt of paying for our school, and we're getting less aid because of it. So I'll continue to advocate for that. I had a great conversation with Assembly Member Barrett, with Dee Dee Barrett's office, and Dee Dee Barrett was really, this is impacting all schools in Columbia and Dutchess County, especially. And she was really, really eager, and she listened, and she's making an appointment to talk more about this to try to hopefully make some changes. So advocating is something that I'm really passionate about. I'm on the advocacy committee for Questar and for the BOCES, and I'll continue to advocate and talk to our assembly people and senators to advocate for Chatham. Another piece we talked about, we talked about many things, but the EV busing is one thing that we discussed, how that's a struggle for our community, and it's a struggle, for Chatham and for other districts, and we need, the infrastructure isn't ready to meet that mandate. Those are two of many, many topics we discussed. The next thing I want to talk about is goals. So I know I emailed the goals to the board, but I have a copy if anybody would like one. If you guys don't mind taking one and passing one down. Wait till everyone gets one. So the board in, I believe it was November, because I just started in September, October, November, the board adopted goals, right? We have a wellness goal, we have a academic goal, we have a fiscal goal, and we have a safety goal. And from there, the school district created priorities. So on this sheet, you'll find the district's goals and the district's priorities. And then there's an update. This is a summary of things that have been accomplished. My plan is every year, a mid-year point is to talk about the mid-year and give you a narrative update. And then by the end of the year, we're going to talk more specific about what was happened. And if the goal we feel it was achieved, and if we're going to recommend to continue that priority for next year, or if we want to come up with a new priority. And my goal by the end of the year is to have more data for you on some of these, and just to show how it was achieved or how it wasn't achieved and why we need to continue it. So, real quick, just going through the wellness, I'm just going to mention a couple things here. I'm really proud of our wellness committee. The district hasn't had a wellness committee that was active in quite some time. I'm really excited about the opportunities. We're currently in the process of surveying. We will be surveying our faculty and also our students. The wellness committee decided to split it up into two subgroups. So we have a wellness committee that's going to focus on student wellness and one that's going to focus on faculty and staff wellness. So that's going to be a community that's going to do a committee that's going to do a lot of really great things for the district. Another highlight is that we started a mental health support team, and that consists of all of our mental health providers, social workers, guidance counselors, school psychologists, and also our principals. One thing as we transition to the new director of student support services, I'm still going to be really involved in this, but I'm going to have the new director of student support services is going to be the lead liaison with this group and this committee, and our social emotional learning curriculum that we are continuing to embed. Really proud of this committee too. It's amazing what we've accomplished already in just a short time in my 6 months here. It really also gives an opportunity for those mental health providers to come together because they have a lot in common, and that can be a really, really difficult job. So to bring the whole group together district-wide from all three buildings, I think really helps build that team as well. We're also in the process of looking at social emotional screening tools that we're hoping to adopt. It's one of our priorities in here. We're in the process of gathering a whole bunch of different samples, and then we're hoping to choose one. So more details to come on that in the end of the year. Academic goal. MTSS was a priority that we identified. I'm happy to say that we have a lead on that now, and that's Terry Bordell, our Director of Innovation, Curriculum, and Assessment. He's been spending a lot of time learning about what we've been doing in MTSS and working with teachers to make it better. We've been providing PD and education for all of our teacher staff and our Board of Education members. And we're also really like fine tuning on the progress monitoring of students as well, and to track student progression through those tiers. So a lot more information to come on that. It's just the beginning, but I'm liking how on track we are with it. Another area we are looking at to help us gather that data and to progress monitor and to really take, to really analyze, because the goal of MTSS, as we've talked about, is to have kids move up the tiers. And we've already decided on a tool called Right Path by Right Reason Technology. We are currently working on a contract that we'll be sharing with the board for approval very soon, hopefully the next meeting. We're very close to doing that. You have to work with the BOCES to get that done, so it's aidable, so it takes a little time to get that contract in order. The goal is this year we're going to spend time inputting all the information, so that way teachers can have access to it for next year, and it will be fully utilized next year. It takes a while to get all that data in there, and that's what we're going to be working on. Another goal is really working with our teacher leaders. We really feel as a district that one of the main priorities to get stuff done is to really empower and to educate and to utilize our teacher leaders. So that's a big part of it. So Terry's taken that group on, and they've made some real great strides, so we'll continue to report that on you as well. Fiscal goal. One of our major fiscal goals this year is a capital project. One of my main goals is communication and keeping people informed, and that's what we've been doing. We work together with our team, and when I say team, contractors, there's a whole big group of people that are involved in a project. So we worked very hard for several months to come up with a really a timeline that everyone would work for the district, but also be realistic to the contractors. That took more time than I was hoping, but we have a really good timeline ready. Then from there, it's keeping our faculty and staff of our high school, because that's where most of our project is, keeping them informed, making sure we have a real clear plan for packing, a real clear plan about when rooms are available, and we've really already started that communication with the faculty and staff here at the high school to make sure everyone is updated. We are in the midst of this one right now, is ensuring staffing adequately meets the programmatic needs and fiscal realities of the district. We have some realities coming up, and Mike's going to be talking about that. So we have reviewed as a district, as an administrative team, we've been reviewing all programs. We've been reviewing student enrollment, how we're utilizing our faculty and staff, how we're utilizing our programs, and we're identifying areas, that we can look at. So Mike's going to talk more about that in the budget, but with the deficit, we are going to be looking at all programs, and our plan is by the 25th, we will be sharing some of those areas with you that we may have to look at reductions in order to balance our budget. Just so faculty and staff knows, we will be communicating this with you throughout the entire time. You don't have to worry about hearing about any possible reductions at a board meeting. You'll know before that. So more information to come. We're still working that out. But one of my main priorities is during these hardship is communicating, being transparent, and giving that information. We're still in the midst of doing that. We're still waiting for our numbers. That's why we don't have that information yet. But we are going to have to look at everything, as Mike is going to be talking about, for years to come. And that's unfortunately the reality of where we're at here in Chatham. Our goal is not to impact student programming as least as possible and affect the least amount of students as possible. That's always our main priority. Mike will talk more about that as we go. Maintaining a strong credit rating for the new debt insurance. I'm sure Mike will talk more about that. I would say that goal has already been met. Mike will talk to you more about that. He'll give you details on that. Going down to school safety. Again, re-implementing building level meetings. That was a priority of mine this year. Buildings were doing them, but we made them more clear. They're happening more regularly. And then we have a district-wide committee that meets several times throughout the year as well to oversee that. That's a major priority. One big goal that we're continuing to work on, and I'm having Questar work on this, is creating an extracurricular emergency procedures. So that means for extracurricular activities, sports, after-school events, that we need to have clear procedures for that, just like we do during the day. Questar school safety team, they work with us. They're helping us with that, and that's still in progress. I'm hoping by June it will be accomplished. That's my goal. And then also working with Needham, our other school safety consultant, to establish a comprehensive school threat assessment. And that's only used in emergency situations when somebody makes a significant threat. I'm happy to say we haven't had to utilize those committees much at all. So that's a positive thing, but they're there if we need them to help make sure our students are supported and our students are safe. So that was a quick overview of our mid-year goals. More details to come. Like I said, we'll be assessing them for the end of the year to see which priorities we want to continue and which ones we can continue to work through. Any questions from the board on the, I know that was quick, the goals or priorities? Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so we're on to the operation update and budget presentation part 2, instructional library and technology.
All right, good evening. So tonight, we're going to go through the second part of the budget, instructional library technology. And then next meeting, like Andrew said, we're kind of wrapping everything up. We'll have the third part of the budget. We'll discuss where we stand, discuss any possible reductions, and then we'll look to adopt at the following meeting, I think April 8th. So we have a couple more meetings to go. I want to thank the Finance Committee again. We met last week to go through this. One thing I will mention on the rating, that was good news. So we've maintained our AA2. So years ago, when I started here, we were AA3 rating. When you issue debt, they look at everything and see how you're doing. And we got an upgrade last time to AA2. And we had about an hour and a half call. I had Noah Nadelson from Unistat on with me, and basically, but I have to do most of the talking. So we talked about our reserve plan and everything we've done over the years. They were very impressed. Was hoping to get maybe an upgrade again. There was a chance. She mentioned it. She would put in, would discuss that. But then we didn't get the upgrade. And then the main thing I noticed is we're a smaller district. So, our valuation's $2.6 billion. The ones that have the AA1s are about 16 billion, the ones in Long Island and such. So the biggest thing was there weren't really comparable districts our size doing what we're doing to I think to warrant that. So, but we did maintain that. So what that does when we issue the debt tomorrow, we're actually issuing it. I'm going to get the numbers tomorrow. We'll put all that together. It'll save, over the 15 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars on interest costs by having that higher rating. So that was some good news. Now for the budget, if you can go to the next slide. So let me go through some of the pieces here. Instructional, so curriculum development and supervision. You see $30,000 increase. Curriculum development, so that's Terry's position, Administrator of Innovation, Curriculum and Assessment, Secretary Conference. That was like I said, we're really keeping things down, so with salary increases there. Supervisions, the principals, assistant principals, secretary, supplies, conferences. This is a little lower than normal because we did have some breakage with Mr. Thorson retiring. He's been here a long time and hiring a new principal, so there was some savings there. Researching, planning, eval, and in-service training, so like the PD numbers. So we have a BOCES data analyst that's in this, and we have our model schools, our professional development, summer curriculum, and then a lot of our software. Same thing, we try to keep things as constant as possible right now. One thing I will mention, and I did when I talked to finance, we're having a review of all BOCES costs. So Andrew, Terry, and myself will be meeting this week to go through every single BOCES cost to see what we can do, if we need those still or if we don't. And as I stated, our BOCES reimbursement rate did drop significantly from 48% to 36.6. So now we really are going to look at all that as we have a tougher budget. So that'll be happening this week. Teaching, that's a big piece, is pre-K to 12 staff, supplies, assistants, aides, textbooks, conferences. Our school resource deputy is in these codes. That is one cost that did increase, so that actually went up from 40 to 55,000. So that's in this budget. And then field trips, and so once again, same thing. We're going to review all the BOCES costs, and we're going to look at all items in that line item again. But that is a piece, 331,955. Special education I've highlighted in yellow. We met once. We're going to meet again. And this is the one we show up on the final meeting. Brian's here because he has to do all his evaluations as the year goes. There's some questionable numbers right now with some placements, which can be lots of money. This did go up significantly this year. It wasn't the greatest timing, but we had contingencies in this line, and I already used some of the contingencies to bring this number down. But like I said, we'll have a better idea on that next meeting. Occupational education, summer school, adult ed. So that's our career and tech. So that's based on a 5-year average through BOCES. So we did go up. Attending those programs went from 39.8 to 42. Like I said, it's over 5 years, which helps. So you don't have major fluctuations, but that was 18,000 of it. And then we also have a career studies in there. And those are $30,000 a student. So we did have a couple increase in there. I will get numbers from the guidance department soon to see where the adjustment could be on that one for next year. Adult ed is a program that we offer that the expenses in this are offset by the revenue. So that's a break-even program. Library and AV, you can see that's a small increase. That's our 2 librarians we have in our databases and supplies and software. That's just salary increase. The next slide. Technology, we're actually meeting with technology, I think tomorrow or this week. So if we're going to do any other updates that you might say, oh, there's $82,000 decrease. Last meeting we had the I think it was a $90,000 increase in the administrative budget. This is just a reallocation of BOCES code, so that did not go down. It was put in another code on the administrative side. I talked about that last time. But we will look at the technology budget, and we're going to make some decisions on that. So there could be some adjustments there. Guidance, health, psychology, social worker, that's pretty much supplies and the staff that we had, that's just salary increases. And co-curricular and athletics, I think that might have been a slight increase in salary. Obviously, coaching and our referees and all those costs go up over time. So what's happening in there, we had some contingent money built in that we're using up over the years, and that's getting less and less. So I did a slight increase there. So 700,600 or 4.21% is the increase in the instructional piece. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see what is this really, what is it? So where do we stand? So budget, yeah, of course.
This one?
Yeah, that's number 3.
Yep. So athletics is all our teams, all our coaches. Oh. So that includes the theater program that we have, that we help fund, our theater, our plays. That's some of the co-curriculars, the extracurricular, and then the athletics. Yes, there's a piece in there for that. And the sports, so all our sports teams, coaches, officials, all of that is in those 2 codes. Yeah, I mean, we've kept things flat as possible. So I've been keeping that code flat as I can, but obviously as official salary, fees go up every year and coaches' salaries go up every year. So, there's a little bit of an increase, but there will be increases obviously over time. Robotics is not. We have a separate line in the instructional piece for that. Yep.
Next slide.
So if we sum up where we're at, budget increase 1.422 million or 4%. So what we did have is we had a couple retirements that I had breakage. We had some senior teachers retiring. So hiring new teachers, there's some breakage. That's why that's down from the last. And also our teacher retirement system rate, which we'll be discussing next meeting, that number did drop. We finally got kind of a final number. So that's helped us. And that's what's really driven if you look at the deficit, 936,000, we were at 1.15, I think last time. So the drop was the teacher retirement systems rates dropping slightly, I think from 10.1 to 9.59. And then the couple retirements with the teachers I took the breakage out on that. So that gets us, now we're under $1 million, but we have still the ways to go. And that's assuming we go at the cap of 3.66 for the tax levy. So next meeting, we'll have a lot more discussion and getting that number down. Like I said, good thing is we have reserves. So this is going to be a multi-year process of looking at everything. But we will be using some reserves also. So we don't have to, obviously we don't want to have major cuts or anything. We're going to have to balance this out over years. So it's going to be a combination of things to get that down. And then if we go to the next one, the library, Hannah's still here. So she went through her program, did a great job. I do want to thank her. She's doing, it's been a few months. It's been great. I try to visit on Fridays, and it's, really done a great job with the staff, and things are moving along there. So this one on the library, so we transfer the money for the library because we have a public library that's part of the school. You can see a $15,000 increase. So what this really is their salary and the retirement rates went up. So those are the main drivers. We tried to keep everything else constant. Telephone actually did go up. They used to be part of our telephones, and that was part of internet was part of our system. And when we went to Zscaler a few years ago, for extra protection, for some reason their systems don't work, to check out books and stuff. So I am having our new IT director that was looked at a few years ago. He hasn't looked at that yet. If there's any way we can get them back on our system if possible, but obviously they got to have their Hudson systems and stuff to check things out. So that will be something to discuss. But that's about a 3% increase. So that's what I have right now. Like I said, next meeting will be the big meeting where we really get down to, to kind of finalize our budget and then adopt it the next. But is there any questions on the second part of the meeting? Or the second part?
And just so the community knows how it works, when it comes to reductions, is we are working through those as a team, and we make recommendations. We'll first make it to the budget committee, so there'll be a conversation in there, and then from there we will then make a recommendation to the board, and that will be done live and in person at a meeting. And then the board can discuss these and make a decision whether or not we want to utilize all those, and then make the final decision how much reserves to use. So we have some tough decisions to make, but that will be, so I just want the community to understand that it's done at a board meeting. The decision is done at a board meeting. We make recommendations, but the board has to make the final decision, just to make sure everyone understands how that works in public schools. I know. And I've been through this with my past district for several years. So unfortunately, it's one of the hardest things boards of education have to do, because we, including myself, we just want to keep adding things to our programs. We want to keep adding teachers. We want to keep adding staff. We want to keep adding everything. But the reality is we only have so much money, and we know our not all, but many of our taxpayers, most of our taxpayers are struggling. So we got to be careful on how much we increase our taxes as well. So tough decisions ahead the next couple meetings. But the key is working together as a team. We're all here for the kids, and we're all going to make the best decisions possible during these difficult times. It's never easy.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's go on to the academic update.
Okay, good evening. I just have two things to share. First off, at the last board meeting, we briefly touched on instructional technology purchases and resources that the district has made. I'm working with the principals right now to review all of those, which programs we're utilizing, how we're utilizing them, any changes to any software platforms, looking at any really surprising price changes, things like that. So we'll have a recommendation here soon and adding to that list and taking some things off. We're going through that process right now. So just a quick update on that. And we'll look ahead to 25, 26. Secondly, you all have a copy of this big thick program. This is the program for this Friday's regional PD day. It's called Brighter Together. Our district, along with 18 other school districts in our OC's region, are participating in the event. It's facilitated by Quest R3. The day will include a virtual keynote that we'll watch in the auditorium here. All the districts will do in their locations. By author Cornelius Minor. And we'll also include both in-person and virtual workshops. So for those educators selecting an in-person session, they will travel to that assigned site and participate there. So some of our teachers and TAs will be going to other schools that day because they selected an on-site full day event. In-person sessions include offerings for nurses at Lansingburg, pre-K teachers at East Greenbush, speech therapists at Wine and Skill, world language teachers at Maple Hill. That's just a couple to give to you. There's probably 15 more to pick from. So lots of choice there. Our own Donna Eager, our library media specialist, will be hosting librarians from across the region right here in our high school library. And I think the last I checked, we have at least 25 librarians coming here to spend the day with us. Her session will focus on how librarians can provide resources and instruction to serve the needs of students. So really excited about that and welcome some folks from other districts here. And then for those selecting virtual workshops, They're able to select one workshop per session, and there are 4 sessions total. Each session has between 30 and 40 different workshops that our teachers and TAs can pick from. And as you scroll through the program, you'll see offerings such as, I'll give you just a quick little few examples, igniting student engagement, utilizing podcasts in the classroom, heart healthy eating from Hannaford is running that one, using music to improve mental health, supporting newcomers using assessment data effectively, financial literacy at both the elementary and secondary levels. So tons of things go on and on with all the different choices that are available. So pretty impressive list. And some of our Chatham educators are presenting 5 virtual workshops. So I'll just share with you that PE teacher, varsity baseball coach Scott Steltz will be offering a workshop entitled Successful Athletic Coaching Strategies, which will provide participants with strategies for practice, planning, in-game coaching, parent-player communication, team standards, goals, expectations. I'm sure that will be a very popular session. So excited to have Scott with that. Middle school assistant principal with us tonight, Mike Stead. Mike will be facilitating a session called Tactical Doodling in Any Classroom, Harnessing the Hidden Power of Bad Drawings. And I can tell you that Mike's sessions, I told him this too, sold out in about 3 hours. They across the region. So there's a lot of interest in tactical doodling. It'll offer a practical introduction to a powerful engagement tool for everyday classrooms. So MED school counselor and K-12 guidance teacher leader Renee Morgan will be leading a session titled Panther's Den, the Bright program in an elementary setting. Renee will be speaking about the Bridge for Resilient Youth in Transition, BRIGHT program, which offers a safe and supportive environment for students transitioning from a healthcare setting to the classroom. Renee will use our own Panther Den at the MED as a model of success. Social studies teacher and senior team teacher leader Ashley Keegan will lead the session Senior Capstone Program Overview. In her workshop, Ashley will share with participants the over 30-year history, super impressive, of the Senior Capstone Project here in Chatham. She will share the pieces that make up that program, including the capstone skills, CD binder creation, mock interview event, and the senior presentation. And just to share quickly, this is a growing trend in many school districts, and the fact that it's been happening here in Chatham for over 30 years, I mean, we're way ahead of the curve, and it's great that we're gonna put ourselves on for shit. And lastly, I will be facilitating a session called Effective Teacher Leadership. And in my session, I'm going to share the makeup of our amazing teacher leadership program right here in Chatham. And I'll include a practical real-life activity with the people who join me and put them in the role of teacher leader. So all these virtual sessions are just under an hour. And I'm super thankful, and I want to congratulate Donna and Mike and Scott and Renee and Ashley for putting in the proposal, being selected, and a big part of what I anticipate to be a great program. So thank our Chatham team. We're looking forward to a good day. And
That really is impressive. That's very impressive.
great people here. So
Yes.
we want to share that regionally.
Mhm. As a parent of athletes, I can say that I've gone through the Coach Steltz communication program, and it's it's impressive.
We have a lot to share, and I think this is an opportunity just to show how great a place this is. And we know that, but it's good to put it out there for others to know.
Yes, and we get a lot of comments about our Bright Room as well. A lot of comments that people see how unique that is, and our capstone. These are fantastic. That's really good. So is that rep?
That's it.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, anybody else? Questions? Okay. All right, so we're going to move into board committee reports. The policy committee met. Rachel? Yep. Yeah, there. Am I now? Okay, so we just have a few this week. I'm going to present the 2.1 officer election procedure and policy 2220 together because they needed to be updated together, essentially. So the policy backs the handbook portion, so that's why we have it cross-referenced in there. Just a minor add, which apparently has caused confusion over the last few years that I was unaware of, is the original reading of bullet point 3 is to be eligible to hold the position of a board officer. The board member must have served 1 year of their term or be an incumbent is how it was originally written. When I wrote this in 2018, I thought incumbent would kind of cover anybody who had already served. But for clarification, I've now changed it to be eligible to hold the position of board officer. The board member must have served 1 year of their term, be an incumbent, or have prior experience serving on the CCSD Board of Education in a previous term. Does that succinctly? So if you were, so Marianne is currently president, and let's say she leaves the board, and 3 years later she comes back, and they need a president, and they're like, oh, we'd love Marianne to be president. She would be able to serve, and she's already served previously, even though I guess technically that year she's not an incumbent. She's an incumbent in the sense that she's already served. Okay. Appreciate the clarification because there
Okay.
was some question.
Yes.
I know.
Very clear.
Everybody's good with that. And so that is, yeah, that's the only update to the policy. I know it's like very minor, but this is the first reading of that policy. Then on the officer election portion of the handbook, which is now 2.1, I updated, so I obviously had the policies cross-referenced from the handbook section, so I've updated them to the NISBA numbers, and then I just put in the cross-references at the bottom. So now both sides are mirrored. Okay, did anybody have any questions or any feedback on those in general? Okay, the board's activity calendar. This one, so the original portion that is in the handbook right now, when that handbook was originally written back in 2018, we had done a workshop, a board workshop with Barry and Weisel from NISBA, and he had given us it's like their template for a board handbook, but they call it the operating blueprint, something to that effect. And so we use that as our template for the handbook. And this section was always strange because they had very specific parts and it had very vague parts in it. And so I can see how they didn't really mesh. So what I tried to do is I tried to make this customized to be more local to Chatham. So the very first page, I guess, echoes what is currently in the handbook section, and it's still kind of in that template form from NISBA's recommendation. However, throughout the year, we have had a lot of timelines that we put into the handbook, like we have the strategic planning process timeline. We have a timeline for the new member orientation. We have goal setting timeline. We have a superintendent evaluation timeline. So there are all these different sections within the handbook itself that have all these timelines. So what I did was I took all the timelines that are in the handbook and I made this chart that is in chronological order. So for planning purposes, someone go through and see, okay, in July, officer elections. Next part, oh, this is part of the super eval timeline. Oh, this is part of the strategic planning process. So it's almost like a step-by-step checklist. So you don't have to go to every part of the handbook. Like it would be intuitive for the board officers to just go, oh, there it is, all right there together. So I put the chart in to help make it more customized.
And then I did put the calendar template that we had been using, at least when I was here, which can be used, cannot be used, whichever. I think it's an easy template to just kind of have in chronicle order like that. And that I remember when we had it before, at the top of the calendar, I always put, just to remember, this is a tentative fluid document. Like, this is kind of like our guideline so that we don't miss anything. Like, we use our board calendar almost like a checklist, like to make sure that we did everything. And I also kept the long-term planning action items, I guess you would say, at the end too, so that if we have large turnover on the board, or just in general for the purposes of continuity, we do have it that we usually do, RFPs or policy manual reviews a certain number of years. And now, actually, I have to update that. So now the vision, mission statements, we actually do 10 years now. So that needs to be updated. But if a board officer could just add notes, if it's their board that did one of these action items, so that another board doesn't, again, like if you do a whole policy manual review, like Marianne and I have been working on for forever, and there's a big amount of turnover on the board, you guys don't need to do a policy review next year. You know what I mean? Like, so that we know, like, oh, okay, now it moves to 2029. That's when the next one should be done. The same with RFPs. We want to keep up, somewhat regularly to just check in on them as well. And the same with the vision and mission statements. So kind of had that section as just like as a note section for officers to check in for continuity of the boards. So any questions on that one before I go to the next one? Okay. So this one I did add as kind of like a checklist for officers that might be new to the position of, now we have where we keep our documentation split somewhat. So we have board docs, which is how we keep everything transparent with the public, right? That's where our policies are, copies of the charters, where our meetings are, everything like that. That's our transparency. There is still a library on there that does have executive content on it, but very, very little now. Now we also have the shared board drive. So Kelly keeps the board docs. She loads everything up on there, but we do have a section of the shared board drive that needs to be maintained as well. So just a, I guess, checklist to make sure that both sides are both mirroring what they should be mirroring in general. Broken down from, meeting planning, board docs, the shared drive, obviously, new member orientation and committee oversight, because we have that committee section on the drive now too, where everything is all in one place. And so I thought this would be like an easy checklist to help you guys, like, okay, this is what I need to do. You probably don't need it at this point, but I think it might have helped you at the beginning. We discovered these gaps as we were stumbling along and realizing that there's a lot of, we just need this for continuity.
Right.
Because there is a lot of turnover. We're going to have 2 empty seats, 2 new members.
Right.
And then, no, thank you very much for doing that, Rachel.
So those are the 2.
Okay.
Is everybody good?
Everybody's good.
Okay.
So we did put finance committee in here, but as usual, Mike usually, Nikki, is there anything that he missed? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, so we'll move on to the new business discussion. This is the first policy reading for the nomination, election, and duties of board officers.
So I kind of just covered that. Everybody was good?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we'll move to K, new business, business finance, motion to approve student fundraising. R61, be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the proposal for student fundraising submitted by the Chatham Central School District's 6th grade class in the projected amount of $900 after expenses. Such proposal is to solicit donations from patrons in the projected amount of $900. All fundraising must comply with the Board of Regents Rule 19.6 and School District Policy 5251. Can I have a motion?
Second.
I just wanted to mention this is for the Bronx Zoo fundraiser. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
And I just wanted to thank Gnome Pizza, and what they're doing is they're giving 20% of anyone that goes. The date, I think the 12th or 13th?
13th.
It's not
right?
written,
It's
but
a-
we should
13th of March.
announce that. So
So-
13th of March.
It's
So
Thursday. It's this Thursday.
This
so,
Thursday, so go
Okay.
and eat at
Yeah.
Gnome Pizza, because 20% of their profits are going to this fundraiser. That's how they're doing it.
Is it just the pizza or is it the
I believe
bistro
it's
as
the
well?
bistro as well.
It's the beach.
It's both. So-
Okay.
And what is it for?
So what happens, anything that is spent, they're going to give 20% of anything spent, and it's going to,
Sixth grade gonna do?
The
The
Bronx
Bronx
Zoo.
Bronx
the
Zoo.
Bronx Zoo field trip.
Bronx Zoo,
Mhm.
okay. Some parent asked on Facebook when this came out, what is the money?
What it was for. Okay. Bronx, did it not say it on there?
It does not
Oh.
say.
That was under executive
Does not
content.
say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know until just now.
Got it. Yeah, Bronx Zoo. I'll make sure Adam makes mention of
That's
that.
great.
Deb, will you make note of that just to make sure
Yeah.
that that's specified on the website?
Great. All right. So consensus agenda. Let's see. Can I have a motion? R62 be it resolved that the Board of Education accept the consensus agenda L through N as written. Can I have a motion? Does anyone have any questions? Just going to scroll through here. So the Rochester overnight field trip is on there, Sandy. When is that trip?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it is tomorrow.
I had questions about this.
Too late.
No, she's just kidding. All right. And I wanted to make a note that the anonymous donations to the softball club, that's really nice. So, okay, I lost track. You said all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so moved. I just wanted to see what it was. Okay. All right. Okay, so items for future agenda. Does anyone have any suggestions for items, future agenda? Matt? Okay. All right, so we're on to our second public comment. Does anyone have anything they'd wish to say? Yes, please, go ahead. So sign right in over there.
Hi, my name is Kayla. So can I just, okay. I wanted to raise a few questions about the pre-K program. I know the lottery happened today and my son was not one of the ones that were chosen. So I wanted to raise a few questions about that, about limiting the program to one classroom. I believe that you said that the program was successful, the lottery was successful, but I really disagree with that because I feel like my son's being denied a whole year of education because of this. So the program gets state aid, and the state pays for the salaries. So what is this school like kind of losing with getting a second classroom? I know that previous years of this program, the classrooms have been like, they started with 3 and then 2 and then 1, and they were all state funded. And 2 years ago, one of the classrooms was 15, 15, and 12 kids, and that was state funded. So why, like, did the requirements change in the last 2 years of those grants, going from 18 kids to 15 kids? And then before it was state funded the last 2 years, it was funded by the school. A full classroom was funded and that was taken away. And it was originally started as a targeted program for that specific reasoning. So I had a daughter that went through that targeted program because she had behavioral issues and she was a preemie, and that program was irreplaceable for her because she still struggles in kindergarten as it is, and not having that transition from the pre-K program to the kindergarten is irreplaceable for her. It was monumental. So, I mean, even denying those 12 kids that you're denying for this lottery is it matters to every single one of those kids. And then I believe that there's a lot of great programs, but I mean, today, to quote exactly, I mean, there was a presentation given with the robotics team, it was amazing, but it was specifically said that it was expensive, but it's worth it. But I mean, I feel like these 12 kids are worth it. Also, I'm not sure why we're not funding, even the school funding a second classroom for 12, I mean, even for these 12 kids, especially when the state funding has been, you know, smaller classrooms. I mean, and then I feel like the registration was open for a very small amount of time. You gave us like a month and a half, 2 months to, for these kids to apply, and now it's closed. And I mean, even a couple more kids could even open up the second classroom. I just feel like it's an opportunity to have these kids come in and be successful, especially targeted kids. And I know we're not doing targeted kids because of the funding, but I just want to say it's irreplaceable. So I just wanted to raise questions about that. That's all.
Okay, thank you for bringing that. Okay, so that is a wrap for this meeting. Oh, there is one more? Oh, I didn't see him. Okay.
Hi, my name is Roger. I don't envy your jobs. I really don't. It's really hard to make the decisions you got to make. Okay, you're trying to come up with a budget. Somebody is telling you what to put in the budget, and then you're trying to make it work. How do you decide against those 12 kids, but for girls softball? How do you decide the music department is more important than those 12 kids? How do you decide any sports is worth more than those 12 kids? And I'm sure those 12 kids could turn into 13, 14, 15. You said you'll decide if to take it out of the general fund or not. How do you know what the voters want? How do you know what the people want? You said you reached out in the community to get the kids to sign up. If a family only has 4-year-old and no other kids in the school, how did you reach out to them? Did you do a census? How did you reach out to get the kids to sign up or know if they're going to sign up? You said 2 might not even show up. You know that. I don't know. How do you do a budget when you don't know how many classrooms you're going to have? I think those 12 kids are more important than that sign at the end of the road. Is that sign doing anything? You're going to get those 12 kids. It's going to be a year later, but you're going to get them. But I'm sure the parents are not going to want to hear the kindergarten teacher saying, well, you know, they're a little behind because the other 18 kids had pre-K. Now, I looked up the benefits of pre-K. I was going to read you some points, but that's useless. There's 17 pages of the benefits of pre-K. And you know what they are. You wouldn't have them. You know, you say, we don't want to spend money. Get rid of all of them. Send them all home. We don't want to pay for it. Help the budget, right? No, wait a minute now. Kindergarten's not mandatory. Get rid of them too. So I don't think you want that. I don't think the parents want that. I think we got to figure out a way to make it happen. I don't know. You know, you got a tough job. I understand. But you got to find a way to include all the kids in the district who want to go to school, an opportunity to go to school. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Adam Fisher, and I'm a mentor on the robots team. And I just wanted to quickly talk about our organizational philosophy, how we run the team. Every school, every program has their own philosophy, and they can run to extremes. At some schools, especially larger schools, the mentors do all the work, they make all the design decisions, they send out parts for fabrication, bring it and assemble it. At competitions, there's a drive team. It consists of 3 people, a driver, operator usually, and the drive coach. A lot of teams, especially bigger schools, will have an adult in that position. And adults run everything. Our philosophy is the exact opposite. We put the kids in charge. Every year, I pick a captain of the team, and that captain has complete authority over the team. He decides what we spend money on, who's doing what role, everything down to the colors, what our strategy goes for in the game. There's, like in this year's game, we could have picked a lot of different strategies. We could have focused on the big balls, everything. The mechanisms we use. I even have the captain giving me orders, you know, what he wants me to focus on, who he wants me to help. So, and the captain this year is Mason. The growth in these guys is exponential. When I had him as a freshman, and it's rare I get someone as a freshman I get to keep to a senior, but it's beautiful when it happens. When he was a freshman, I had to show him how to put a drill bit in a drill truck, and that's where we started. And to where we are today, it's incredible. So just wanted to tell you about how we organize things. It's totally kid-centric. If there was ever a problem, I have veto power, so I can step in if it gets a little crazy, but it hasn't happened. These kids have been wonderful, especially the ones involved. It usually breaks my heart. We have a lot of seniors this time, and there are a lot of rookie seniors. So they're developing skills, and then I'm going to lose it. But it's an amazing program, and robots is really hard. It's unlike a sport where you come in, you learn plays, you learn drills, you practice those, you gain skills. Every day you come into robots, and it's problem solving. You don't know what to do, you're not sure what to do, and you definitely don't know how to do it. So every day it's figuring out, well, how could I pick up this ball, or whatever the thing is. So I just wanted to give you some insight in what and how the program works.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So this evening we do have reason to go into executive session. This is regarding collective negotiations and personnel discussion. So be it resolved that the Board of Education enter executive session. Can I have a motion? Okay. I need a motion to appoint Andrew Court as our district clerk pro temp for this executive session. And motion? All in favor? Any opposed? We do not anticipate returning to open session. Thank you, everyone. We should probably move to the other location. Yeah.
We're going to go to the preschool chocolate. Yes, I did a walk. Yeah, somebody was